All right, cool. We're live. You
All right,
want
let's
to do the
go.
intro?
No, you do the intro. I did it last time.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even prep for this. Welcome back to the Nick and Justin show, where we talk about whatever random things we basically came across over the past week. Where it could be anything. It could be news. It could be relationships. It could be anything in
Life,
between. Yeah,
thought
absolutely.
processes.
All right. So we'll just dive right into it. So since you threw it to me for the intro, I'm going to throw it to you for the first topic.
Oh, okay. Now make this a little fun because I was talking about this with my soccer team. I've been keeping a very close eye on Wrexham AFC
Okay.
on their
Yep.
promotion with which if anyone does not know, it's a club that was bought last year or a year and a half by um oh my god, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Yeah, Rob McElhenney. I was like, I have to remember that one. Everyone remembers Ryan Reynolds.
Hmm.
But yes, so let's keep up on that. And they are really on the verge. If they play tomorrow, then yeah, they get the promotion.
Wait, so give me some context on this. What do you mean promotion? What are they talking
So
about?
in soccer, when you go and like just imagine like a pyramid, they do really good job in Welcome to Wrexham in the documentary. So if you want to watch it, Welcome to Wrexham.
What's that
But
on? Is it on Netflix?
it's on FX,
What streaming service does that play on?
Hulu. You know Hulu.
Okay, there you go. Now you're
Okay.
speaking my language. You're
Yeah,
like
yeah, Hulu.
Showtime, and I was like,
It's free.
I
You're
don't
good.
know. Okay, go ahead.
So the Premier League, so like Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, stuff like that. Then it goes down to the Championship, League One, League Two, and then the very, very bottom of that is like even more below. But
Hmm.
before a club starts being profit, money, and like prestige, it's like you have to get into League Two. So they're
Okay,
like right below, right there.
got it.
And
So
it's like
they're trying to get promoted into League Two from
correct
the bottom tier
national, like
league.
yeah, from a national league, but they've been stuck there for 15 years.
Okay,
And then what was it? And they're one of the oldest soccer clubs in like the UK. So it's pretty crazy on their backstory.
and so if they play, you said tomorrow.
Yeah, and they win. They should secure their promotion.
So break it down. How does it actually work where a soccer team can even be eligible for promotion?
So in the system right now, again, I'm still learning. It's been 3 years with being in the soccer world, and I just kind of got the hang of it, and I still don't know it. So bear with me if I butcher anything. So starting from the top, the Premier League. Let's just say from there, the bottom three teams will um, go down to the Championship League, and then I think two from the Championship will get automatically promoted, and then that third slot is a tournament. I have to double check that. I can't remember, but yeah. So that's how it's structured in the sense of like promotions. Like the top teams of that will go up to the next level. The bottom tier of that will go to the bottom level. So for in that league, the
Hmm.
national league, it's two get to move up. One gets an automatic spot if they're number one, and 2 to 7 go to an all-out tournament, or 2 to 8. So
And this
yeah,
happens every year.
yes.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
so imagine if this is why I think American sports system is trash. After understanding the European systems, so imagine your Raiders, or I'm not sure if you're still a Raiders fan,
Oh my
R.I.P.
goodness. We,
or the
we,
Niners in the back in the day.
go for it.
So imagine if like they're on the bottom of like the entire bracket of the table, so the entire like rankings, and they have to drop down instead of the NFL, they'll be like the XFL, just for, and then the top teams from the XFL move up to the NFL. That's how like the systems go.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. That almost reminds me when people were saying that Bama could have probably beat the Browns once upon a time.
Yeah. So yeah, like it can be like that where the Cleveland Browns are just so like bad, and yeah, college teams so good they could probably just play in the NFL instead of college. Like just understanding the system that way.
Okay,
So
got
yeah,
it. So
that's why I like it.
yeah, no, that makes sense. It's kind of like you earn the right to play, and so you're saying that their team is doing well enough this season that they might be eligible to actually bump up a league, which can
Correct.
basically change the trajectory of that team forever.
Correct.
Man, Ryan Reynolds again with hitting it out of the park, right? So he's got his what is it? Gin company,
Jin,
Mint
he had Mint
Mobile.
Mobile, sold it recently.
Yep, and he just invested into a fintech company in Canada. Like I
Holy
think this
crap.
week, maybe last week. Like he's already making his next moves.
That's exciting.
He is leveraging it very well.
Oh, but if you really even think about it too, a lot of like celebrities and everything else, it's moving towards soccer. So it's even crazy. So Will Ferrell, I think, is minority owner of LAFC. Natalie Portman with LA Angels. I think that was it. That's the NWSL. And then David Beckham owns Miami MLS team. So like all these prominent, even former like soccer star is like, yeah, it's crazy on how much, especially like soccer and football in America. It's soccer. I've been calling it football ever since. But yeah, it's been crazy to see the one development and just the growth and eyes on it now. It's pretty insane.
I think owning sports teams are the next sexy thing for a lot of these people.
Hmm.
People are throwing money into soccer. There was the like cricket leagues that got spun up. Everyone wanted to buy into those. There's big money to be made there, right? And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. And so, especially if they have that following, where like Wrexham, come on, no one in the states would have known what that was if it wasn't for
Their
those.
their their branding is incredible. The way they did it was wow.
Only recently, though. Only
Yeah,
recently.
recently because of them. Like they were really good at leveraging like just that is pretty insane because everyone I'm even keeping up just like making sure their standings are on. I'm like, dude, this is you got me. Like you won my heart.
Next time you fly out there, you're gonna have to make a pit stop for a game.
I'm hella down, dude.
Or what they can do is similar to how the NFL has one game a year or two games a year over there.
Hmm.
Imagine if they brought one game over here.
Oh yeah. Well, right now they do friendlies, so I think they're playing Manchester United in the States. I forget where. Let me look this up. So they do friendlies here. So sometimes they do the training camps
Hmm.
here in the States. So I think Chelsea did theirs in like UCLA, stuff like that. Or was it Man City? God, soccer knowledge is still very much non-existent, but I'm trying, I swear. Oh, I can't even see it. All right, I'll find it later. Man United. Where is it gonna be? Yeah, it's gonna play in Snapdragon in San Diego this summer. San Diego's new stadium.
I think so Wrexham versus Man U.
Hmm.
I'm actually low key surprised I haven't heard about it yet. Like, I feel like they can easily turn up the heat on the marketing side of that because those are two. Well, Wrexham relevant because of the celebrities. Man U speaks for itself. But
But it was if you're in the niche, like it's just like for me, it was like, oh crap, it's already we already knew I already knew about it. It's like how you're so much up to date on tech that you're telling me stuff when it comes to the soccer world. I'm like telling you stuff. So it's like just the circles of knowledge, as we talked about even last week, how fast you can get knowledge because I already heard of it.
it's fair. That's very fair. All right, let's see if this one's a more even playing ground a little bit. Okay,
All right,
so
go.
let me tee this up. Um, how important is your credit score for you?
Oh, for me, yes,
Yeah.
extremely important. I don't know as of right now in like the states and our culture in the states. Yeah, it's very important for me.
Okay. And so, like, would you say before you buy a house, it's something that you want to get, or like either get it high or maintain it?
Yes.
Okay. What number would you say is probably like a good number that you're striving for?
Um, just keeping my OCDness. I like to keep it above my 750.
Okay, great. So you like to be in that like top percent.
Yes.
So not sure if you heard, but like this past week has been kind of spicy in the real estate industry.
No, I did
Um,
not hear.
there's
Please.
there's like a number of articles that are spinning it. So I'll read one of them for the Washington Post. It's titled "Biden to hike payments for good credit home buyers to subsidize high risk mortgages." All right, I'll break it down a little bit more. Basically, the short of it all, if you have a
Mm-hmm.
high or good credit score, you'll pay more for your mortgage rate than someone with a low credit credit score,
That's pretty effed up. I'm not gonna lie about
right?
that.
So right now it's basically flatlined, right? Like it's pretty even across the board. Like you qualify. If anything, like you may not qualify for certain things if you don't have a good credit score. So you're almost penalized in a way for having a bad credit score. This is going to equalize it a little bit where basically if you have a good credit score, you're going to subsidize that cost for whatever that difference is so that someone with a lower credit score could actually like qualify, get a loan, things like that. Um, and here's the crazy kicker. It goes into effect May 1st.
Oh, so this thing's already passed.
Yeah, exactly. So like it hit the news cycle probably a week before it was gonna go live. And yeah, it goes live. I think okay, there's two things that I have on this one. One, all the news articles, probably for the clicks, are saying that it's Biden's fault. It's a stretch. I mean, it's a government agency that's doing it, which I guess falls under like his government regime, whatever. But it it's clickbait, I think, and that's coming from someone that's a little bit more on the conservative side, like.
Yes.
So I think there's that one piece. Second piece, I like had to really think about it. I was like, okay, like you and me, we both have been watching our credit scores. Do I feel penalized in a way for this? Especially because, like, obviously, I bought a house already. I'm going to be looking for another investment property soon. Like, how does this actually affect me? I'll pause. What are your thoughts on this?
Hearing that, just not even doing any research on that whole getting penalized when you have a good credit score and you have to pay more, which is sounds backwards to me. I want to say the A word because it's freaking backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a good credit score, then it should have been your I just coming up as a kid when it's like teaching like, oh yeah, you get a good credit score, you pay less because you're a trusted like what was it? Lender, borrower. You're a trusted borrower. You know you're gonna pay on time, so you get that like lower interest rate, lower. So it gets like, why am I paying more for doing a good job? Might as well do a bad job and get it less and not care. So just to hear that kind of gets me going. Not doing enough research on it because again, never heard about it just yet. It kind of ticks me off because it's just like, why am I working so hard if it's not going to benefit me?
I think that's,
Serious.
that's that's a fair perspective for sure.
But I needed to take a step back on why, if it's really going to help, or is there something more grand scheme thing? This is just again very selfish thought process. So what is so on? I'm pretty sure you might have found like a reason being, or you probably agree with me, knowing you probably found like a few little pockets of stuff that grand scheme might explain it. So I'm gonna turn it back to you on what are your thoughts on this?
I think a lot of people in the news are blowing it out of proportion for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Let's say your sales tax,
Yes.
understandably, it's not based off of like income or credit score or things like that. But it's one of those things where you don't really think about for the most part. It's just like society's tax to buy that hamburger or society's tax to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're in a space where you're making enough money to buy a house or you're like chasing it down to get to that point, or you have like you're in a good situation because like okay, those people that don't have a good credit score, buying a house is just like only probably one of the things that they're going to have to worry about, not including however else that's going to affect other things that they have to get right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think in the grand scheme, I'm actually okay with it.
Okay. I'm gonna kind of pivot to another philosophy of this,
Yeah.
as we talked about way back in our past, and like, what does it mean to buy a car? So, not showing how the structure is, let's go back until, let's say, if the people have to pay less that who have a low credit score pay less, does that mean is do they get forgiven after the 30 year, or is this like a 50-year type of extension payment to make sure that you could pay off the principal? Or that's a thought process right there. So if it's less, that means they have to extend at the time because versus just having a 30-year. And I could see that. That's where it doesn't matter on that point for because I want to kind of hearing you say it just bring me back to the topic of what does it mean to afford a car? That makes
Let me
sense.
summarize what it is, right? So
Please.
let's say you have $30,000 and
Yes.
you want to buy a car for $25,000. You
Mm-hmm.
could have the option of paying it all out in cash, which then you
Correct.
don't have any payments,
Yep. That's
or
what I was.
you can choose to finance the vehicle, pay
Mm-hmm.
whatever the air quote tax is on interest rate. But during the time that you're paying off that car, if you do something else with that money that makes you more than what the cost of that interest is, then you should totally finance the car.
Correct. Thank you for simplifying that.
I remember having that discussion with you because that's what I did,
Yes.
right? Like I could have purchased my Subaru, didn't purchase it all out in cash, financed it instead. I think interest on it was maybe like 2K, 2.5K. I threw all that money into the stock market, and during the time at which I bought and the market right after it, it did all right.
I Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. But where's the correlation to that?
I think
Um,
right now. Oh, is that rebuttal for me, or is that you ready? I have a thing
I
teed
was gonna
up.
say, like, can you tie that back to
So I
the
want to tie it back
mortgage?
because again, if you're wise with the money, that in that higher like payment shouldn't matter because you're already financially stable enough to make that decision when you're buying a house. So it shouldn't have.
Hmm.
It should not. If you're already strapped already, that's the question of you should even paying for this at that point.
If
If I'm
someone's
ready, if
focused on that
yeah,
piece of it,
mm-hmm. Because if you're already strapped for cash, like if you're like, okay, I already have the money to back it. Just say like you're saved up, you're financially in the sense of like, okay, I made the 20%. I never bought a house before, so correct me, 20, 30% down
for
payment.
down payment,
Yeah. Typically the traditional.
typically they say that you should put down 20%. The reason for that is so that you can avoid your mortgage insurance. However, you don't need to put that.
Mm-hmm.
I put five
Like
percent down
3%.
for
You're
me.
like 3 or 5, right? That's the typical. But yeah, even with that, I think that's a lot of money already, just 3 to 5% of a house. But you already know that, okay, I have, for you, I'm pretty sure you can correct your structure, but you paid about 5%, but you also had enough cash on hand to make the monthly mortgages, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So you already had that, you already had a lump sum already in the bank versus I'm going to buy it and I'm just going to depend on my paycheck to paycheck to pay for it.
And I think I went into the property a little bit differently than most people, right? I think if
Mm-hmm.
we look on our socials, a lot of people they purchase their house and that's probably the house that they're gonna get married, have kids in, maybe have their kids go to that school district, things like that. This
Thought
property,
process. Yeah.
yeah, this property that I purchased was purely focused on it's going to become, I mean, it's going to go from a single family home to basically an operating triplex. I'm going to be out of it in a year. I'm going to fold something into another property, right? Like it,
Yeah. It's gonna like domino affect it.
yeah. So the focus is very different, which is also why I wanted to be, I wanted to invest the least amount of cash in order to get the highest upside,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If I do think about this piece though, before I purchased this house, the one thing you're always looking at is like, well, how much do I have to save to get over that hump from nothing to something?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think this does add a little bit of a friction point for individuals that are in that first saving mode, because
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that the interest rates went up, which brought down individuals' buying power, right? So before, for 20,000 down, maybe you could have qualified for, I don't know, I'm not going to do math. Let's say it's 500K, right? Interest rates go up, that 20 down now can buy you 300K, right?
Yeah.
So the amount that you could actually buy in that buying power went down already with interest rates. This is going to add one more friction point when you're dealing with those interest rates for the mortgage that people are going to have to figure out. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
level of complexity is where it frustrates a lot of individuals is the process is already complicated. Now there's one more piece to also consider. Grand scheme, it's probably going to be better, right? Those who can't, I mean, it takes a while to repair your credit, right? So once you kind of
Mm-hmm.
mess it up, maybe you're on that good path and you're doing everything correctly that you want to do. And this is kind of that like just that little bit of help that you needed to kind of push yourself up and keep going in that cycle. I mean, I'm all for it, I guess. Like,
I'm still in save mode, so that's why it kind of got me. I think I was like, dang it, if I have to pay more, then I can't do like. All right, I'm pretty. I was like, all right, I gotta do more research on this.
yeah, it's a very similar conversation to if we were to talk about student loan forgiveness, right? If you were an individual that has student loans, paid them off already, now all of a sudden you're like that 10K could have been forgiven. You're like, that ain't fair, right?
Yeah,
But it just depends on what side of the coin you're on, really.
for me, it was like I'm still paying it, so that's like 3 more years. No, grand scheme of things, saving house be done in the next like year and a half, 2 years, and then yeah, it's a bit of a for me. I'm gonna take advantage of that, but overall, I think it's such a band aid fix that I'm just still gonna take advantage of it if it's still happening. Because as of right now, I don't think it will be. So yeah, I never heard anything just yet. So I'm just still paying off my loans and putting it away in a savings account that they say, hey, let's start paying. I'm already cash heavy, so we're good.
Yeah. Do you want to switch topics on your side? Or I have another one that you might think is kind of spicy, and it's along the
Ooh,
same vein as this.
ooh, maybe. Hold on. So my backstory. So again, I think even think about last week, this entire week, that this podcast is again same coin, but two sides of the same coin. You're very into the financial tech side, and I deal with so many people like on a daily basis in a high field of peaks and valleys of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, just the sense of being an athletic trainer, as I talked about last week, be really good, be really up, playing well. Again, we had a loss, really tanking down, and it could be running really well for winning, or the team's really healthy and they're feeling great, or when they get a bad injury, they're going to be low for a little bit. On top of that, in a college setting, I got seniors transitioning into life, so I had so many talks already, happens year after year, just talking about identity, transitioning into this new sense of self, letting go of things, and seeing and just observing again as I did, as I failed, was being a invincible man or Superman type of thing. Of I could put on so much on my plate and I'll be fine. So I dealt with a lot of that this week. So if you want to tackle that or just go on your spicy topic, depending on what you want to do, because that's my where I'm leaning towards
Oh, let's go
is.
there. It's totally fine. The other one we can always talk like one off or even next week. It's not a big deal. It does affect you,
Mhm.
not me because I'm in Washington, but it's fine.
Oh God. Hold on. What is it? Can we just get a little? Let me get a hint
Little
really quick,
taste.
and let me get a little. I gave you my taste.
Okay. The teaser on this one.
Okay.
The amount that you're paying in PG&E is going to change.
I don't like that. Wait, hold on. I'm paying really low at the moment, minus all the lights here. But yeah, hold on. Better for worse. I want to go on yours real quick. Time out.
Oh, I mean, I
That's
don't know how
mine.
much you pay. There's a lot of details, but I
I
could give
don't
you the
pay a
skinny
lot.
on it.
I'm very smart on turning off my lights. Except
Okay.
when I do this podcast, I have like all my lights on and more.
Okay, we'll touch on this and then we'll
All
finish the podcast out with yours. How about that?
right, we'll go. I'm good with that.
Okay, so today when you're paying your PG&E bill, do you have
Hmm.
any idea how they calculate it?
By wattage on the meter, and then depending on what kind of plan you get, is it like a daily time frame of when it's going to be a peak versus when it's not, or is it going to be like just a balancing out? I just got the average one because I don't use that much. I'm always at work, so mine always been floating around like 25 to 35 a month on the very low end,
So
and
you
then
mean
I
mean
don't.
like you're paying $25 to $35 a month?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I don't use that much. But when, but on sometimes this is what I don't get is that I get paid zero. I have to pay zero because apparently, like the way how they reflex or how they fix it or reanalyze it. Apparently, I qualified for like I saved enough energy to like have a subsidized bill where like 2 months ago I didn't pay anything. It was zeroed, which I don't get.
Okay, I think that's the key part is you kind of have an idea of how they're charging you, but
Hmm.
you don't know,
Yeah.
right? Okay, now what if I told you that just hit that. What if I told you that you would just pay a flat rate every single month, regardless of usage? What would you think?
I would have to see the prices.
Okay. I'll fill you in.
for
So for
for
those,
for for me for me it would be like it's the same thing as I actually wouldn't mind it, but if it's like an absurd amount, like let's just say Comcast does a promo of like $50 and it goes 70 for me, I'm going first year $50, the promo 75, now I'm paying 125 after that. I have to find a new promo deal and talk to them and figure that out. If it's like that, I'll be pretty pissed. But if it's in the sense of my afford like where it is now, then I'll be all right with it, you know?
okay, yeah, okay. So let's talk about what's the current state. So the current state, I looked it up on PG&E's website. Basically, they have all of the rates broken up into two different tiers. So there's two different ways that you qualify for either tier one or tier two. I won't get into the
Mm-hmm.
details of that, but just know that high level, there's two different tiers. Okay.
Correct.
Then from those tiers, there's different rates depending on the what day of the week it is
Mm-hmm.
or the time of the day. And then that goes to where you were saying there's basically peak hours and then there's your off peak hours. Okay. And so in all of those calculations, there's different numbers that apply to the electricity that you're using at the time. And I think that's where a lot of the complexity in trying to guess what it's going to be is kind of difficult. So the title of this article, I think, is again clickbaity, but I'll read it. So it was
I
reported by
got you though.
KTLA, and it says California power companies propose income-based rates. Here's how it's going to work. So this is an article that was posted by KTLA back in April 17th. Okay. Just off the headline, you're just kind of like income based, like
It really got me intrigued. It got my brow raising.
absolutely, right? And so high level, all the stuff, they like has one line of the why, and then they dive straight into the numbers. But I think the why kind of does matter. It's being proposed in a way that's talking about, so it's three different areas of California that are going to be affected. PG&E, Northern California, right? San Diego Gas and Electric, enough said, San Diego. And then Southern California Electric, that's like your Orange County, LA County areas. So three of the probably, let's say, the most major metropolitan areas of California
Mm-hmm.
are pushing this forward, but they're also mandated to do it. So there was a bill that was passed last year that mandated that these companies increase transparency in the way that they're charging for their services. So here there was a quote. The law was intended to lower the amount that residential customers pay while increasing transparency with their bills. So here's the breakdown. If you're making between $28,000 and $69,000 a year, and I'll only talk about PG&E because there's a whole chart for each of these areas, but
Yeah.
because you're in the Bay, I'll talk about that part. So if you're making between 28,000 and 69,000 a year, it'll be $30 a month.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making between 69,000 and $180,000, it'll be 51 a month. And then if you're making above $180,000 a year, it'll be $92 a month.
Then my follow up to that question, does that state if it's a single family, like a dual, like let's say if I move in with a significant other, which I will be with that, how do they track that? And then will it be joint or will it be under tied to my name that it is going to calculate that in like that? So that's interesting because I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind paying the 30.
So it's based off of household income.
Mm-hmm.
And the articles right now are saying that it's going to be a third party service that verifies the income for each household, which means there's a bunch of gray space in terms of how. I think this is the what. If it passes, they'll figure out the how. And so there's a little bit of a gray area there. I mean, as someone that's in Washington, I'm unaffected. But I kind of like the fact that you can be in a certain band. You can just budget that in.
Yeah, no, I like that because usually like I have to guesstimate, so it's like I always top off like on the 40 ends, like just because in case. But that's what I guesstimate on my like line item budget. I actually like that. I don't mind knowing. It's like way back when even for Verizon and all the phone companies, I think the early tens. My goodness, I feel old saying that. was that you didn't know where you're getting these surcharges come from, you know? And then what I think T-Mobile is the one that like made the current plan that we're on kind of standardized throughout the entire like network, like on how every phone plan is. You know exactly what you're getting, you know exactly what you're paying for, minutes, stuff like that. I'm not sure if you know the correct carrier, but I'm pretty sure it's T-Mobile.
Don't know the carrier, but I do remember the time where you had to pay for minutes, you had to pay for
Hmm.
each text message sent, you had to pay
Correct.
for every text message that was received,
Hmm.
and you had to pay for data plans so that you could browse the internet. And then
Correct.
that's not including if you maybe drove to a different state and you that wasn't in your plan
Call there.
or
Correct.
right. So like
It was hard.
yeah, and
It was
I mean
tricky.
I think T-Mobile now made it the easiest out of all of them. But oh yeah, it used to be horrible. Could you imagine telling
Yeah.
someone today like, "Oh, that text message you just sent costs you X amount," and each text message was like can only be a certain number of characters, so you couldn't even like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna block it up in one text." It's like no, that doesn't work that way. It's like communicating on Twitter because you're restricted on the number of characters. But if you want to get your part across, you're going to be like, read my thread for more. And you're like, no, it costs me
I'm
money.
good. Or what was it? Oh my goodness. Hey, call me after 9 p.m.
Yes. Or Singular before they merged with AT&T, they were like, my circle.
Unlimited for my circle only. Oh my goodness. It's a
We're
struggle,
old,
man.
man.
Yeah, we don't have to keep on repeating it.
I'm just reminiscing the time when you heard this screeching noise trying to go onto the internet, and then mom picks up the phone and you lost internet. For those who are watching and have no idea what I'm talking about, that's dial up.
Yes. And you're like, how come the phone doesn't work? Mom, I'm on
Totally.
using the internet. I do miss the quality of phones that they used to make though. I had a Nokia brick that's still by far the most indestructible phone I ever had in my life.
Oh, my Nokia was a brick. Absolutely.
It had the best service. Like I was always full bar wherever I went. I dropped it so many times. It was like this small little tiny one. It was an awesome phone. I love that phone.
One day. I mean, maybe not one day, honestly. Otterboxes are kind of dead. They like thrived off the fact people really wanted a phone that wasn't going to like break. I just want a thin phone that fits in my pocket now. I'm not going to latch that thing onto my belt buckle.
What are you talking about? You want to be cool dad?
When I'm
Dad
rocking those
vibes?
white New Balances and
The
jean
high socks?
shorts, I'll be ready
The high
for a.
white sock has to be white.
I might mix it up with a black pair of socks.
Ooh, you're a cool dad then if you do that.
Yeah, let's not rush into anything. All right, let's go back to your thing. I think I got through what I wanted to cover on that side. But yeah, keep in mind this stuff is I think it doesn't go into effect. So they have to submit it by 2024. So it's going to go into effect by 2025.
No, I might be in Seattle. You know, you never know.
Things can change, right? You may not be in one bracket, you might be in another bracket. So
We'll see what happens.
absolutely.
All right. So, live topic on mine. I have a couple athletes right now. Spring's coming. Some of my seniors are like saying their goodbyes, like kind of hit me. So I was like, it was mainly on the sense of like, do I play another year to go pro? So backstory: this is transitioning on to giving up the identity that you played like a sport or something you did for the entire life, and all of a sudden you have to walk away from it willingly, but knowing that if you continue to do so, it wasn't going to fulfill your dreams for the future. So that's the conversation me and my athlete had. And it was hard because he was injured. When he got back, it wasn't the same. So we figured it out. Now he's feeling back up to where it is, but now he's at a crossroads. And at that point, it's like, can I just work? And a good job. He in IT. He even in his hiring freeze, he got hired like this week, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And I was like, "Dang!" Like I remember he was like, for the whole entire year, he was just like, "I don't know if I'm not sure if I want to walk away." But we have to break it down. Like, and if you played another year, what's the point? You give up a salary job that, in this case, would really just start your work life type. Not saying I'm always proponent to that, but if you have financial like goals to hit at a certain amount of time. A year could mean a lot, and or play another year and hoping to go pro, where your contracts and stuff like that are so diluted where sometimes you're getting paid like 1,000 a month just to play at like a lower division if you don't make the MLS, and even those contracts could be very low paying. So what is it then? And yeah, so how does one feel like just walking away? So I'm gonna kind of tie it back to us, but how does it feel like? What kind of identities for you was like? I had to walk away and then sacrifice the person who I am today for the person I want to become. Type of question. Because I was thinking about that like in retrospect about my life. Because I think I'm at a current crossroads as well as I talked to you about last week's episode. But what is how do you kind of, I don't want to say kill off, but like you know what I mean, but shred off that former self. Yeah, like those habit changing things. I think, did I get you?
I'm reflecting on what is a time that I had to make the choice. I think in the last episode we talked a little bit about when I got laid off and the choice was
Mm-hmm.
made for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the journey might be similar in that if I did so back in, I don't know, 2017, 2018, when I got laid off, my identity was my job. And
Mm-hmm.
this might be very similar to like this athlete, right? Their identity is the sport that they play and they strive for. I think it made me reflect on how individuals can have multiple identities, and there's kind of a time and place for it. So my identity was my job, and that was at the expense of a lot of relationships, both friends and family. That was at the expense of kind of living life, being a little more spontaneous, right? Things like that. But it's difficult. It's so different than like being in a position where you have the option
Mm-hmm.
to either pursue a dream or not want to pursue the dream. I still think like for me, I'm still pursuing the dream, so it's a lot harder. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
binary as like what's an example? Like I just want to be some big corporate bro. Like I left corporate after being in it for 3 years and haven't turned away back, right? I don't know.
So
If there's
corporate
something
bro.
I'm missing, go ahead and prime me up on it. But this one's hard for me to like know
Think about.
truly. Yeah.
So this got me thinking internally because I had multiple shifts. Like, let's just start from high school. Football player, played football for all 4 years, just identified as that. Going to college, just being a regular person, then joining a fraternity, being a fraternity man with like just in the life, and going to now being your profession, and then profession to like maybe chasing the dream. For mine at the moment at that time was photography and kind of doing like that Instagram type of wonder, like less type of like traveling and going out, like, oh, that'd be amazing. And then realizing I didn't want that. And now I'm back to the creative side where I don't want to be identified as my job anymore. Back to this again, why I'm starting up this podcast with you and other creative stuff again. But I miss being a documentarian, you know? And, but to get to where I'm at, I really thought about the quote from Hitch because I love Hitch. Okay, that's still my favorite, one of my favorite movies. Um, but when he was taken on the date, he said like, "You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been." And for me, it's like, where am I going? Where have I been? And for me, I wanted it. In my core, I wanted to help people. I want to. In what way is it direct or indirect? As an athletic trainer, it's very direct. I can see immediate response to my treatment. And what I yearned for as a creator was the helping side of exposing someone's story to inflect a change in someone else. And that core of like, I've been there, but I want to go there further. So for me, yeah, even with that identity shift, that got me thinking as well. So that was really that was my take on things.
Okay. You got some juices going on my side. Now I can think of it.
Uh,
Now that you've shared your story and those
mm-hmm,
pieces to it, my biggest struggle is doing either something I really truly love to do or try to be an entrepreneur and make money on the side. And it's a constant fight between the two.
mm-hmm,
I would love to be able to do my own thing and make some side cash, but I think that often becomes a distraction for what I want to do because it's sometimes misaligned.
Mhm.
Like I would love to just blog about personal finance the whole time, or like right now I'm super deep into like Medicare, right? And so it's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff that can help people that a lot of the information is not available or it's super complicated. And just helping people that way would be cool. A lot of times the people that need the most help also aren't the ones that they need the most help because usually the resources aren't available to them, right? Which then
Mhm.
means it's usually hard to charge for it. And so then it creates this like weird thing of like, do you spend time where you can't get any money on it, but you get this gratification for it? This podcast is cool because it's the first time I'm doing something where I don't I don't think you and I really care where this goes.
We're
Like
just going for it. We're just
we're
doing
just
it.
going for it. And I think that is the coolest thing. I'm so planned out with everything that this is the first time it doesn't have a plan.
I think it's great. It's an amazing thing.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's freeing. Like I love it. Like this is just a creative juice. Like, oh, I gotta get back going. I gotta get back into it. And I can be structured in other things. I feel like it's very important to be structured in different stuff. And but using the escapisms of like these sporadic like spontaneities to make sure we keep life exciting.
So going back to the section that you just talked about,
Mm,
being one who documents the journey.
yeah.
I mean, I guess in a way we're doing it here, kind of
Hmm.
as a byproduct of just catching up and talking.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do anything active with it?
Yeah. So the plan was to restart my like my creative side again. So I had like my Creator's Mind podcast, which is kind of documenting like telling stories of photographers, but I kind of want to just do photographers. I really just want to get back out there and just find the interesting stories. Doesn't really matter anymore, you know? Not using it as a audience that I used to aim for, but just as the theme of inspire. And what does that mean? And the way I was thinking about it, still again, a lot in my head, not pen and paper, not have been executed how I want to do it. But those are things I want to be methodical about, and that's my second type of side hustle. On how can I build that to be financial, stepping so I could step away from really depending on my job. So yeah, I think it's coming together. It's by the time hopefully this thing comes out, I'll have at least something ready. But yeah, so even with documentary. I'm like getting lost right now. It's getting late at night and getting old. Bedtime. But just yeah, finding cool people like just to talk to you. Chefs freaking love food, man. Like I just want to hear about how they get started and what inspires them to do that, or it's like a designer or just someone just passionate about whatever they do. Freaking furniture flipping is so sick. I've been on that on Instagram. My whole entire freaking feed is now all furniture flipping on my Explorer. And that in itself is like really crazy. It could be a side hustle that they never expected and kind of inspiring someone else might to do it. Yeah, even my other homie got me into like, hey, we should just trade cards. And that's how I got into the magic stuff. So this week I just kind of blew some money on within my budget, blew some money on a box of like magic booster sets and just went ripping away and just seeing where it goes, collecting cards and just doing some fun stuff and just like, oh, I really want to get into it. My brother showed me how to play. So yeah, it's those little stuff like I got inspired from because one of our friends were just like, we should do it. I was like, yeah, we should. So yeah, I think that was an important part about it.
What do you think's enabled you to pursue so many things when previously you had to be so calculated and planned about every action that you took?
I think structure. Reason being is that when during COVID or even my career, I'll give a short synopsis. Like first 2 years I was doing part time. So honestly, out of college I was making 18K a year. Like very like scraping by and working. That was my main job and then working side jobs just to keep afloat. Landed a year internship with an NFL team. Pretty stable financially, but ate away a lot of time. And before COVID I was working at a high school and it was very stable, but clinically I wasn't satisfied. So when COVID hit, just kind of pressed the reset button, quit, figure that stuff out. And when I got to state, I just went, before I got to my current job, I just said, F it, I want to do freelance photographer and see how it plays out. And I wasn't really too happy about it. Like, it was cool, but I just wasn't satisfied. So I went back. And then the last 3 years is having a structured job to kind of provide a lot of foundation stuff for me, made me more less risk adverse. Like, oh, I'm ready. Like, I'm good where I'm at now. Where, like I said, I don't have to put so much time and focus. I could still I put in everything I need to do the A+ effort, but I know that I'll have more in the tank because I created that structure for myself to be more spontaneous and be more thriving. And also, the secondary portion is time. I have, like, significant other thinking about if we get married and have kids probably the next 3 or 4 years, this sense of risk I can't take has to be even more like thought about because can I actually do that? Can I actually take this risk to now I'm taking care and the responsibility of an individual is that if I lose this and I didn't set myself up right and everything goes to crap, I'm in crap. So as long as that happens, like I can try to do this and push all the externals to increase my top line, then really focus in on the grander scheme of I can create something systematically business sense where if I whatever happens, I lose my structured job, I created a structure somewhere else already to support what I need to get done and support who I need to support or help support, not need to, but you know. So I think yeah, that's why after those 3 years I felt extremely braver, more brave in the sense of doing this stuff now and kind of turning off the scared mode or safety mode and just kind of going balls to the wall type of thing. Yeah.
Sounds exciting, dude.
So how about you, Mr. Confliction of having everything super structured and having this? How do you feel about balancing the structured versus unstructured for you? Because I know you have all like on top of this, you work as well, getting the house ready, and I'm pretty sure you have one more project that I'm pretty even your blog. I'm pretty sure that's on there as well. So we're kind of on the same levels. Probably yours is a lot more higher end, but we are balancing a lot. So how are you doing that kind of in and out identity or self like principle conflicting principle balancing act?
It's kind of weird, but it's basically just having scheduled time to be spontaneous, which is
Mm,
weird because being spontaneous shouldn't be planned. But there's so many things going on that I have to be very disciplined in when I'm putting my time, where I'm putting my time. And even, today, like I didn't wake up when I wanted to wake up so that I can go to the gym. There's definitely parts that are still a work in progress, but I mean, I literally worked, basically up until the time that we jumped on to record this piece. I'm gonna work probably another 2 hours afterwards. But it's prioritizing things like this that I think it'll pay it'll pay a nice dividend down the line in my like mental well-being.
yeah.
Like I could have easily texted you and just been like, look, dude, I got a ton of work. I'm just gonna grind through this. But I think there's something lost by doing that, even though like, yeah, there's a ton of stuff to do later. I think things like that, planning the time and being pretty deliberate with when I'm hanging out with my SO, my family, friends, just putting it on the calendar and then working around it.
Mhm.
Um, it does result in a pretty ruthless like if something's on the calendar and someone flakes, they're probably not going to get back on the calendar because
Another month.
it
Sorry, you lost your
it.
slot.
But it's not only that. I feel like it's almost like a disrespect for time.
Hmm.
And I mean, you're equally busy in your own way. There's a level of respect that you have to pay for time. And when you do just kind of want to kill it and do nothing, like there's times where we're super, super tired. And probably what's going to be more invigorating is I jump on the Peloton for 15 minutes rather than scrolling on Instagram for 15 minutes. Right. But you could just sit around and scroll on Instagram and then feel even worse than you did 15 minutes prior.
Because you just kill time, probably do something not productive at all.
Yeah, it's I think really finding those small things that like fill your cup a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and then doing those small things. I mean, like there's times I don't leave this house, right? I work from home. All the projects I can do literally from this same office. I have to like prioritize. Like I could easily let Sadie, my dog, out of the house and she'll go by herself, or I'll go and walk her, even though I don't need to walk her because she can do it on her own. But that's super important for me to just get outside and like breathe some fresh air that's not coming through
Mm-hmm.
our heating system. So it's like those small things, just being very intentional with it, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is the biggest takeaway that I have with it.
Yeah.
Because the past me would have totally blown your ass off. I would have just been like, nah, I'm good. I got work. Talk to you later next week. Bye.
Well, the lazy me would have said, "I'm in a food coma right now," and when I text you that you're still good, I just woke up from a nap. True story.
Exactly. Right. So I think that's the biggest shift.
All right. I know we're probably capped up for time, but next week I love one on your point though of like being disciplined and like, remember Jocko Willing has wrote Extreme Ownership, but discipline equals freedom. Oh my God. Like we can go off a tangent on that one, but that in itself is like resonating.
Oh, add that to the backlog for next week because I also bought his jeans and they're freaking fire, but we'll talk about all that next week.
We can add that one in next week. But yeah, thank you again for listening to Nick and Justin's show. So if you're still with us,
Like,
thank you.
comment,
Holy crap.
subscribe, and mostly comment. Like, sharing it, I really don't care. I'd rather just like actually start conversations in the threads. I think that's way more interesting because
Meeting new people. Be
yeah,
tight.
and most likely these first few episodes are just our friends anyways. Like it's probably people we haven't talked to. So say what's up because I don't know, as we get older, we just all are worried about our own stuff. And this is another way to connect.
100%. You know, we're busy right now. Everyone's calendar is always a 4 week waiting time. So
Seriously.
that's just life when you get older.
Yeah. So all right. Later,
All
y'all.
right. See ya.